Just got a new haircut. I'm gonna try to do like the samurai haircut for my trip to the Shikoku Henro in Japan, which I still have about a year to get ready to, and also for the Appalachian Trail or whatever comes up next year. I'm very flexible, so when either Europe opens its door to Americans or I can just travel within the US, I'll jump on that for the next vlog series. But in the meantime, you guys are gonna have to deal with a little bit of bad hair until I can do the loop behind me. Today is day 26 on the Camino Frances, and this is gonna be the third most challenging day on the entire Camino Frances. The first one was just getting over the Pyrenees on day one. The second one was climbing all the way up to the top of the Cruz de Fierro a few days before, and then this one. We got three options today. You can go the really long route through the mountains, a short one, or just follow the Camino through the road, and towards the end of today's stage, like the last 25%, then that's when you do the climb to Cebreiro, which happens to be the first town in Galicia. Yes, we're done with León right now, and we're gonna enter a new stage of the Camino. But before we go into today's stage, let's go over the Camino de Santiago as a whole, because of course you guys don't know it by now like the back of your hands. The Camino de Santiago stretches about 800 kilometers from Saint Jean Pied de Port all the way to Santiago de Compostela. The lucky ones go an extra 100 kilometers to the end of the world. Now, as you make your way westbound across northern Spain, you're gonna go through different autonomous regions and provinces, and we start with the one in Navarra, followed by La Rioja, and then we enter Castilla y León. Within Castilla y León, we cut across three provinces, and that is Burgos, followed by Palencia, and finally León, where we are right now. Today is the last day on this big province that brought a lot of change for me on the Camino. Up ahead is Galicia. Within Galicia, we go through Lugo first, and then finally A Coruña. So let's go into today's stage with the help of the elevation profile. Today we have 28 kilometers to Cebreiro, and we got options. We actually have three. You have the official route, which follows the main road in between the canyons, and then by the time you make it to the last 25%, you climb. That is option number one. That is the one that I took. But then you have two other ones. You have this one on this side that takes you to Pradela. So you go up the mountain, and then you have to come down and join the Camino Frances. I think the green one on the left-hand side is for the adventurous kind. This one, you're gonna be climbing up the mountain, going over these towns, up and down the whole way, and then you're gonna rejoin the Camino Frances in Las Herreiras just at the right time when it starts going up again all the way to Cebreiro. So 28 kilometers, I'm gonna follow the official Camino. I'm gonna be going through a few towns along the way. It's gonna be different landscape than days past. We're in the mountains. You feel the transition going from kind of like the plains into like the mountain environment. You have more forest, and you also have that alpine feel to it, to the environment. It kind of reminds me when I was going over the Alps on the Via Francigena. It was a cool, cloudy morning when I woke up at 6:30 in the morning at the Albergue to the sweet sound of the birds chipping away outside. At 6:50, I was out the door in search for some breakfast, and I made my way through this plaza here past Iglesia de Santa Maria, and finally went over the medieval bridge and leaving the town behind. Here at 7 a.m. is where you have the option to take the right path, the one that takes you up over the mountains to the town of Pradela, and then you come down sharply to rejoin the Camino Frances about the halfway point. Since I wasn't in the mood to start climbing this early in the morning, I decided to have breakfast instead, and I went to an open bar and I had the café con leche and the napolitano. Left the town, I was on my own, made it past the 187 kilometer stone marker to Santiago. I was talking here in the vlog about the inconsistencies between the distances in the guidebooks. Even different guidebooks have different distances to Santiago. The signage here, you have the road distance to Santiago, and you also have the Camino one. So I mentioned that somebody should just take a GPS tracker and track the entire Camino. Little did I know that 2 years later I was going to trace it by hand, and now I have an idea of the distances, the actual distances to Santiago. 7:50 in the morning, I was walking on the roads. I saw a family of wild pigs right next to the road, and then rushed over to the mountain. I didn't have time to take out my camera and get a shot of them. So I continued on walking, made it past a few interesting houses, Until I came across the A6 highway, the road that I'm gonna be trailing for the entire day, usually on a dedicated shoulder that they have for pilgrims, so you're not actually having to fight off the traffic. There was a tunnel here, pretty cool looking one at that. I thought I had to go in that direction, but luckily for me, I just followed the yellow arrows, walking in the canyons, and I didn't have it all to myself. There were other pilgrims, and I came across a group of Mexican cyclists that passed me by on their way up to Cebreiro. 8:03 in the morning when I walked past this cemetery, and not far from there, I saw a pilgrim that was on his way back from Santiago with his horse. He was in such a hurry, I guess a lot of people asked him for selfies, and he just waved at me as he passed me by. Up ahead is the town of Pereje with Iglesia Santa Maria Magdalena. I had to switch over the SD card on the camera because it was full. On the Camino Frances, what I did was I took a bunch of micro SD cards and CF cards for the camera, and I had about 500 gigs in total, so 500 gigs for the entire Camino. I was conserving shots. I didn't want to film as much as I wanted to, just because I didn't want to run out of space. On the other Caminos, on the Via Francigena, I took a laptop, and on the 3 Caminos that I did back to back last year, the Portuguese, the Norte, and the Ingles, I bought a hard drive in Santander where I could just get the SD cards, insert it into the hard drive, and it will download all the footage. And I have 4 terabytes, so I could just film as much as I wanted to. So left the town at 8:17 in the morning. A bunch of old houses from the 1800s, and you're also walking next to a river, so just the atmosphere in this area is beyond belief. So you make your way through the canyons. I was already at the 25% of the way when I reached a rest area. I had a running joke where every time I would see a rest area, I would go, not this time, and continue on to the next one. So yeah, I know I had to slow down and smell the roses, no? Made it to the town of Trabadelo, where I had my mid-morning snack, the orange juice, the freshly squeezed orange juice. And just outside the bar, I bump into Fernando and Ramon, the 2 pilgrims that I'm going to get to walk with all the way to Santiago de Compostela. I met them the day before. We all stay in the same albergue, in the same room. It was just, I think, the 3 of us on the entire monastery. So it was a good find. Continue on walking through the town, the Iglesia de San Nicolás. You have a water fountain. The water is not treated, but if you have a water filter, you're good to go. They have a supermarket and a few albergues in this area, even a municipal one. And this is also where that right path, the one that went to the town and comes down, this is where it rejoins the Camino Frances. So I'm walking, going under the bridge, seeing the wildlife in the area, over the Rio Valcarce. Past a few albergues and hotels, there are plenty of places to stay, plenty of accommodations from Villafranca all the way to Cebreiro. So you can break this in parts, in sections, in case it is too much for you. Quickly made my way through La Portela de Valcarce, where they have a rest area and Iglesia de San Bautista. We are already at the halfway point of today. I bump into Fernando and Ramon, and we walk together for the remaining of today's stage. It kind of reminds me on the first day from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Roncesvalles, the regular Camino takes you over the mountains, but then you have the winter Camino that goes in between, just like this one. So now, I guess I have an idea of what it will be like. So the next town or the next village is Vega de Valcarce, and this one has the most support out of all of them. You have ATMs, water fountains, supermarkets, you have albergues, and then you have a few also private accommodations. So this could be a place to stop if you want to cut today's day in 2. But I continue on walking, and from this spot, I flew my drone for the first time. And why? Because I saw a castle atop a hill, and I was like, I gotta fly there. And that is the Castillo de Sarracin, which shows up in the Codex Calixtinus, a medieval guidebook of some sort from the 12th century. So lots of history there. I flew and came back, and my 2 Spaniard friends were just dumbfounded when they saw the drone, how compact it was at the time. And, for the rest of the day, we just talk about drones. Continue making my way through the canyon here, and in the next town, Las Herreiras, is where the left variant, the one that goes over the mountains, the one for the adventurous kind, I should have taken that one. If I do the Camino again, I will go in that direction. That's where that variant rejoins the Camino Frances. And here, just as you make your way over the river, there are letters that are scattered across the tree right in front of a private albergue that was offering soup and water and refreshments for donation. Made my way through the village. I remember seeing a cyclist passing me by. There's another water fountain here by the stream, a great place to stop as they have a couple of rest areas in just before you leave the town. It was almost noon when I saw a cat in the ruins of a house. You could just feel the water gushing through the mountains, making its way down. And the villages are just perfectly located next to the streams. We're already at the 75% of the way, and this is when the climbing really starts. From this point all the way to Cebreiro, we're climbing constantly. You can take the road, as the cyclists do, but up ahead, you can continue on taking the off-road path. Where I saw a news crew that was doing a piece on the Camino, I remember seeing them in Ponferrada getting shots of inside the albergue. I saw them here, and then I saw them flying even a drone in Cebreiro, just as I did, and interviewing all the pilgrims. Not far from there is where you have the split on the road. If you go left, you're doing the Camino, the official Camino. It's gonna go up through the mountain, cutting through the path. It was muddy, extremely muddy. It had been raining for the last couple of days, and even today there were a couple of drizzles here and there. But in La Faba, once I made it up there, is where I decided to have lunch. It was 12:37 in the afternoon, and right across a water fountain where I refilled my water bottle. We all went into the open albergue here, and as it turns out, it was a vegetarian albergue, so I had to make do with a tortilla sandwich, some freshly squeezed watermelon juice. I had a chocolate cookie and some honey. We spent about an hour in here enjoying a good lunch, and then made our last push to Cebreiro. We're climbing here all the way up. I came across cattle that was making its way down the path with the farmer, and those are the little moments that are very memorable on the Camino. The next town, La Laguna, is where the road rejoins the Camino. They have a water fountain here and another albergue, but not far from there, we make it to the border between León and Galicia. We're done with León. Thank you, León. It was tough. It was interesting. It was the end of La Meseta and the beginning of the mountain range. In Galicia, it's going to be up and down as you make your way to Santiago, but the hardest part is now behind us. They have a 160-kilometer stone marker here to Santiago, and the funny thing is that Galicia is where my great-grandfather is from. He migrated to Cuba at the beginning of the last century, and then the day before my 38th birthday, I made it to Galicia, the motherland, I guess. We are already there. At the top is Cebreiro, and I made it to the town at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. What a great little town. Like the church here is like the oldest church in the entire Camino Frances. I went in there and I got a stamp. You can just imagine this town in the winter when it snows, it gets completely white out. It must be a scene from like medieval times. I got to the albergue at 3:20 in the afternoon where I settled in, and I did my clothes because in Galicia the dryers, the washers and the dryers are only €1.50. So I took advantage of the opportunity before going out to explore the town. Now my shoes, they had the best view on the entire Camino because you can see the whole mountain range. They even have a glass there, so this albergue has to have one of the best views on the entire Camino Frances. They also have a live webcam here, so if you click on this link, you'll be able to see what it looks like right now. So I went back to the town and I had a beer and also some Galician pulpo, which was highly recommended as just a celebratory meal for making it this far on my Camino. I saw the news crew getting an interview from a few pilgrims right next to a water well here. I also saw them flying their drone, getting beauty shots of the town, and it started drizzling, so I had to hide away in the church where I got a stamp. And then I went to the backyard over here where I got my own shots with my drone. Later on at night, I had dinner with Fernando and Ramon, and I had the mixed salad with red wine and the Galician stew. another dish that is gonna join the list of my favorites on the Camino Frances. So guys, that was the end of day 26. We made it to the top of Cebreiro. If you made it this far, I guarantee you, you're gonna go all the way to Santiago de Compostela. Tomorrow I get to Triacastela, where I get to enjoy my 38th birthday with my new pilgrim family. I hope to see you guys all on the next video.